Hi guys, this is Amvesh and today we are going to discuss what questions should you ask your wedding photographer before booking them. So this is where often miscommunication takes place, and to avoid this, we have made a list of questions for you to ask your photographer before finalizing. So the first question is, how big is your team? Suppose if you have a very big gathering like 1,000 people or maybe a small gathering for 50 people, you need to have a team which can cover both, right? So you need to know how big is that team. So let's see the next question. Do you have a separate team for photography and cinematography? This is very important because you do not want to compromise on photography and cinematography. You don't want the photography to be very good and the cinematography to be very mediocre or something of that sort. So you need to be very clear. You don't want the photographer or the person that you're hiring to run both ways, like photography and cinematography. You don't want that. So the next question is, how many weddings do you do in a year? And this is very important because you don't want a photographer who is covering 50 weddings a year. I cannot stress this enough because when it's in creative art, right? So if you do a lot, like continuously, if you are covering 15 weddings, 20 weddings, 30 weddings, so the person doing it will be very tired, and obviously that person will be physically strained, physically tired, mentally tired. So the team cannot give their 100% as they are tired mentally and physically, and wedding is very stressful and it's very physically and mentally demanding. So you need to know about their schedule. If they have back-to-back weddings before your wedding, so you need to be aware of that. You don't want a tired photographer at your wedding who is like oozing off, dozing off while you're doing fairas, right? You don't want that. So the next question, will you be hiring freelancers for my wedding event? Because mostly, typically what happens is, wedding is a seasonal business, right? It's for like 6 months, 4 months, 8 months. So not all photography team can hire like full-time employees. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to ask them whether they are going to only use photographers who are freelancers or cinematographers who are freelancers. So you need to be aware of that. So you can like have a consultation. It's not a bad thing as such, but you need to ask them whether they are reliable or not. So the next question is, what equipments will you be bringing? Are those your equipments or you will be renting them out for your wedding? It's not a big deal, but you should know whether they have their own equipment or they are going to hire, because typically the equipments that it's on hire, it's obviously not well taken care of and it might malfunction. So you need to be careful about it. So the next question is, do you have a trade license? Because you need to be aware of whether they are genuine or not, whether they are legal or not. So you need to be careful about it. There are many people who are doing it on part-time basis, and I won't prefer someone who is doing it on part-time to do your weddings, because obviously it's their part-time job, so they won't be able to give their 100% at your event. This question is very important. Do you have a contract before we finalize? Because typically what happens is, they have email conversations or something of, they have written like, okay, I've received this much amount of money, and there is no legal contract. We have seen a lot of horror stories where clients are chasing photographers and photographers are chasing their clients, because as there is no written contract or anything, so they don't have a legal leverage to like get things sorted. So this is quite stressful. Whether conveyance and accommodation will be taken care by the photographer or by you, because a lot of times this miscommunication typically happens is, the client thinks the photographer will take care of the conveyance, and the photographer thinks the client will take care of the accommodation and conveyance. So you need to be very clear about this. Even it's of like 500,000 or maybe $2,000, but still you need to avoid this miscommunication. So you need to be very clear about whether the conveyance and the accommodation will be taken care by you or the client. This is very important. Is there any hidden charges? Because typically what happens is, as you know, terms and conditions, you don't want that. When the photography is done later on, if you are like asking for some extra images, they might ask you, I need this much amount of money. So you need to be very clear about it, like whether they are going to ask you extra money for different type of album design, for asking for raw images, for asking for like some more revisions for your photo editing or album editing. So you need to be very clear about this. Will there be any additional charges if the event extends beyond midnight? So typically what happens is, obviously we charge for a day. For example, if it's on 13th and if it extends to 14th, we obviously charge for that and we make it very clear. But sometimes it is not mentioned in the contract or it's not verbally communicated. So you need to avoid this misunderstanding. you don't want your photographer to leave after 12 when you are doing your fairas, right? So you need to be very clear about this. And this is, as I mentioned before, you need to know about the schedule before they cover your wedding, because you don't want a tired photographer at your wedding. So the next question is how long you have been in business, because if they are long in the business itself, so they have more experience and guide you better with like what all like mishaps or the things to avoid or things to keep in mind, because obviously experience is obviously better for you. So couples don't always know about like the nicks and knacks, the small things which experienced photographer can help you with. This is very important. What mitigation plan do you have if any one of you falls sick before and during the wedding? Because suppose your wedding photographer has fever or God forbid has some sickness before your wedding or during your wedding, so you need to be very sure how we can take care of that, and you need to be very clear about this, because you don't want your photographer, if that person falls sick, then there won't be anyone. So you don't want that. You don't want that to happen, because wedding is a lifetime event, once in a lifetime event, and you don't want that. So you need to be very clear about it. So it's very good there if they have backup. So you need to be very clear about this. And similarly, it's the same for equipments. If one of the equipments malfunction, typically what we do is when we cover weddings, we take 2-3 cameras with us, because if one of the cameras fails or overheats, we can keep on shooting with the another camera. So we won't have we don't want to give you an excuse, okay, mera camera kharab ho gaya tha, or my camera was broken or overheated, so that is why I was not able to cover your wedding. This is a very lame excuse, and you don't want that in your wedding. Another thing is, typically what we have faced is you need to be very clear about what kind of album design the photographer will give you. Some people charge after the event is over, so you need to be very clear about this. So please do keep that in mind when you ask these questions. Maybe some photographer will say, Hanji, sab ho jayega, everything will be taken care of, don't worry, ye, wo. And this is a sign of worry. If he is an honest photographer, they will tell you, okay, these are the things that we need to keep in mind, and these are the things which are beyond our control and we need your cooperation, then it's fine. But if the person is saying like, ho jayega, this is not a sign of professionalism, so you need to be very concerned about it. Also, do remember to see at least 2 to 3 full wedding galleries and videos to confirm consistency of quality of work. Most of the wedding teams use freelancers to help them cover their wedding, and there might be some discrepancy in quality which might lead you into getting unsatisfactory results, which we don't want. So here you go, you're all set to choose the right photographer for your big day. And that's it. Congratulations, and wish you all the best for your wedding day. Enjoy your wedding day and keep on smiling. Thank you.